Namaste, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Ashley Turner, yoga instructor and licensed psychotherapist. Today we are talking about how to deal with overwhelming situations or tragic situations such as what we have just experienced with the Las Vegas shooting, also with the recent hurricanes. It's just been a really intense time emotionally, and it can be completely overwhelming and leave us feeling really inundated and really full and not knowing how to manage our emotions. I know for myself, I was left feeling completely depressed, completely morbid, in shock, and I really want to give you some practical tools of how you can manage these very stressful, very epic, just the enormity of these circumstances, particularly when we're all feeling this on a collective level, that not only is there loss, grief, anger on the individual level, but we're feeling it collectively, which can compound the entire situation and just make us feel frozen, actually, at a loss. So I'm going to give you 6 really practical tools and ways that hopefully can help you cope productively. The first key is to name your emotions, to just simply state what you're feeling and take inventory, look at your specific emotions and name them. I received a couple of emails and I was texting a couple of good friends right after the Vegas shooting, and I was feeling really overwhelmed because right now I live by myself and I was working by myself all day and going to my office by myself all day and not really engaging with the public, with people, with my friends, and was feeling completely frozen after the shootings and just absolutely devastated and at a loss. And I was texting one of my friends that night. She put a couple of us on a thread and said, hey, do you guys want to do a yoga class together? And then we started dialoguing, and I said, I'm just feeling so sad. I don't even know what to do. My friend replied that she was feeling completely shaken up, completely shattered, and just hearing those words, those specific descriptions of how she felt, gave me permission. I could feel a settling in my bones and really gave me permission to be with what I was feeling and the gravity of what I was feeling. It's really important when we're dealing with any kind of emotional experience, but in particular grief, and I'm very passionate about exploring the experience of grieving, that there is no normal. We all experience loss, pain, devastation in very different ways, and there is no normal. And so the first rule really is that there is no rule, and we all have permission to feel exactly what we're feeling, and it's really important that we learn to honor each other's feelings as well as our own. So maybe you felt really gutted like me, and particularly those of us who are empaths, who are really empathic, tend to feel it very deeply, and it's almost as if we were there, as if we knew someone there, that we can feel it on a deeply personal level. Other people may not feel it so personally. Some of us may tend towards anger or rage and want to act out in that way, of course. Some of us may be just completely flooded with the grief and imagining what these families are experiencing. Some of us, it may be actually re-triggering of a trauma. So particularly anyone who has been a survivor of assault, or surely any kind of gunfire, if you've had that in your past or your experience before, assault, violence, it can really trigger those memories and even trigger a state of PTSD. So it's very different for all of us, and it's very important that we allow the full spectrum of the experience. So simply stating and naming your emotions goes a long way in giving your emotional body permission to just feel. And along with that feeling is to know that emotions, of course, our emotional body. In yoga, we talk about the manomaya kosha. and that's the mental, emotional body, is connected to the element of water. Our emotions are like water. They're very fluid and they change. And so just knowing that this is going to change. And just like we learn how to deal with water so that we don't get flooded, we learn to create boundaries and steady ourselves. So that brings us to the second key, which is massive self-care. And I've seen a lot of this all over social media, and it just can't be overemphasized that anytime you're experiencing a great emotional turmoil, it's crucial that you implement even more intricate self-care rituals and routines than you normally do. Again, self-care can take many different forms. Certainly tending to the physical body, mental, emotional body are crucial. So exercising, vigorous exercise can be really helpful to discharge difficult emotions, particularly sadness, grief, anger. I find that strong cardiovascular exercise or strength training are really the best medicine for me. So running, cycling, Pilates, working the core, working the muscular strength, weight training, those can be really helpful to flush out, pump out the stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, to literally flush it out of your system, but also just to give the body a release valve so that we can clear it out. So exercise is crucial, strong exercise, really helpful. Conversely, really being tender with ourselves and very gentle. So restorative yoga, taking time to maybe get some body work or go to the spa if you can, and really treat yourself to just, again, recognize that tenderness and attend to. The graduate school that I went to, Pacifica Graduate School for Psychology, the motto of Pacifica is tending the soul of the world. So I invite you to really take on that mantra of tending the soul of the world by tending your own soul and by really giving yourself that tender, loving care. So up-leveling your nutrition, up-leveling just the sweetness of touch with your loved ones, with your partner, with your family, with your children, with your pets, really taking time to nurture yourself. Taking a bath, of course, is a beautiful ritual that's very, very helpful, very important. Herbal tea, again, nutrition, protecting yourself, taking care of yourself. The third key that is so important is to limit or be very mindful of what you're ingesting. So we want to think of information as food, and anything that we're taking in visually, audibly, verbally, it is food. It's taking root in our consciousness. So of course it's important to stay on top of current events and really be mindful and keep up to date with the developments of the stories so that we're aware and so that we are working with what is. And in yoga, we talk a lot about clear perception. So we want to have clear perception, that we are clearly understanding the situation politically, psychologically, emotionally, but we also want to guard our ingestion and digestion of this information. Typically, the more that we ingest, the more deeply we're going to feel this psychologically. So I know for myself, the first night of the shooting, I found myself up until like 1 a.m. watching CNN. And I was completely riveted, and Don Lemon was interviewing this woman who was at the shooting secondarily and helping all of these people and with several people as they were actually passing. And I was left with these really vivid images and feelings that were like doubly traumatizing. And then it began to spin in my own head, and then I was retelling these stories the next day. Did you see this? And can you believe that? Can you imagine this? And it's beneficial, it's helpful for us to stay aware and awake, but we also have to moderate that and balance that with guarding how much information we're taking in. And this goes for everything, for hurricanes, for our political situation, where it is a very delicate balance, it's a very personal balance of how much information you want and you need to take in, and how much you're letting it affect your energy. So we want to stay really activated and engaged and involved, and at the same time, because we don't want to dissociate, we don't want to just spiritually bypass and pretend like things aren't happening. I really see that tendency in myself of the pendulum swinging one way or the other way. I either tend to ignore and just tune out and pretend like things aren't happening, or just not quite be aware of what's happening, or I go to the other side and I overly ingest and get too wrapped up in the story where it's starting to run the show in my mind. So really important to seek that balance where you're aware, you're awake, you're connected to what's going on, and you're not overly indulging. Because the ego can get really sucked into the drama. So the fourth key is, of course, to give back. The work of a yogi, the work of an empowered person living really wisely, is that we use destruction to fuel creation. We have to take up the mantle of turning great tragedies into incredible opportunities and turning it into fuel for our fire, to really take action. And I take a really strong stance on this. I think that it's so, so important that we not spiritually bypass. And it's so easy for us to simply post on our Instagram or our Facebook for a couple days or a week and then forget about it and move on and go back to our daily lives. The call of a tragedy like this, the call of this threshold, this is a threshold of initiation in our culture. We are being called to wake the fuck up. We are being called to take action. We are being called to not stay asleep. We have to take action individually. It's not enough to rely on someone else. It's not enough to rely on radical liberal leaders or some other teacher or friend that you know that's really engaged. Please take action yourself. Please reach out to fight for gun control. Please reach out to fight for the rights of people in Puerto Rico and Mexico to be funded, to be served. Please speak out, use your voice, use your platform, but take action. Write to your congressman, actually reach out and call them. I hear this all the time, to reach out to your congressman, and it's rare that I actually do it. So I have to take full responsibility myself and saying, I'm calling my representative, I'm calling my senator, I'm reaching out and calling on you guys to take action, because it's up to us. It's not up to a corporation, it's not up to the next president, it's not up to the next senator or representative, it's not up to anyone else. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. It's up to you. So, fueling your fire, let this emotion, let the raw, just wicked wildness of a situation activate you. Let it light your fire. Please sit and ask yourself, how can I serve? How can I serve? Because there is no other way. Change comes from the bottom up. And there's no reason that any human being should be allowed to buy a semi-automatic or an automatic weapon. There is no reason. There is no reason. It's a weapon of war. It's a weapon of mass destruction. So we have to speak to that. We have to bring that into conversation. We have to speak to the powers that be. The next key is to reach out. Please, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling flooded, reach out. Seek support. Talk to your friends, talk to your family members, seek support from a trained professional, and ask for the help that you need. And I was just interviewing another friend of mine, and she was saying, speak until you're heard. And I love that line because it's not just speak up and use your voice and find your voice, it's speak until you're heard. So that you might need to talk to 3 different people until someone sits down and is willing to and has the capacity or the skills to really sit there and attune to what you're feeling. And everyone is wired very differently, and it's okay. You might go to your partner and they may not be able to hold the space in the way that you need. You might need to go to your girlfriend, or you might need to go to your therapist. You might need to reach out online to some platforms or discussion, even an Instagram feed or in a Facebook group that are really aligned with your own constitution. Right? So we're all wired very differently, and it's important to just honor that and know your needs and reach out and seek support. So particularly if this is spinning you into any kind of compounding emotion, compounding grief, if it's opening up old wounds or old traumas, please, please, please seek support. If you feel yourself in a downward spiral, I really felt that the first 4 or 5 days, like I just was depressed. So reach out for help. And then the last key is to attend to your spiritual nature. So in these situations, there really is no spiritual answer. There's, nothing that makes sense about this kind of tragedy or this string of tragedies in a row. But it is important that we keep up our spiritual practices to stay grounded, to stay centered. So I just cannot emphasize your own sadhana, your own meditation, your own prayer, your own chanting, reading spiritual books, helping us pull back and get perspective. Spirituality helps us to get perspective when in these situations it can be easy to slip into a very myopic perspective and get completely overwhelmed, and the world is going to hell in a handbasket, or I can't believe this person or that person or this is happening. And so it's important to use our breath, it's important to use our practices to pull back, look at the larger arc of world history, of the larger wheel of life. Again, it doesn't necessarily make sense logically, but we can start to ask ourselves different questions, which are the soul questions. Why is this happening to us collectively at this time? What are the lessons that we are being called to ask? What are that we are being called to learn? What are the actions that we are being called to take? So what are the lessons that you are being called to learn in this, that we are being called to learn as a collective? How can we step up? How can we wake up? How can we take even bigger action so this doesn't happen again? Whether it's the environment and avoiding future superstorms, or whether it's gun control and avoiding future mass shootings, it's up to us. And so we have to ask those soul questions. Why? What is the lesson here? And one big lesson here is to wake up and to take action. So I want to leave you with those sort of 3 things, which are, massive self-care, really tending to your soul, tending to what's coming up for you. Secondly is turning that into fuel for your fire, taking action and giving back and helping. So taking action, being gentle with yourself at the same time, and really staying awake and staying present. So there's a lot of other resources listed below in the links, and I'm just sending you all so much love, and this is such a deep time of tenderness for us as a collective and as a community, and it's time. it's time for us to rise. So may we rise together. Please leave a comment below for any supports that are working for you, any charities, any ways of giving back that you know of. Please leave the links in the comments below. And thank you all so much for your time. Thank you so much for your efforts. And let's keep raising the bar for ourselves and doing better in every way. All right, so much love. Namaste.